3 bone-chilling true horror stories at midnight, haunting secrets never told. The clock struck 12, and every inch of the old, creaking house felt alive with secrets. Beyond the swaying branches outside, shadows danced in the flickering candlelight. This was no ordinary night. This was the hour when the walls whispered their darkest tales. Legends spoke of an abandoned mansion at the edge of town. Everyone knew it had a life of its own, breathing stories of those who vanished within its grasp, stories that kept the bravest souls up at night. Just last week, a group of thrill-seekers dared to enter, and their laughter soon turned to screams. It wasn't just their imaginations. All of them felt the pulse of something watching them, lurking in the corners, waiting. But this house had another story. It was said that at midnight, a chilling breeze swept through, as if a ghostly hand brushed past your neck. Creepy, right? Old photos whispered secrets. Faces gazed into the camera with soulless eyes, a haunting plea for someone to remember them, to understand their pain. Every single detail held a powerful weight, an energy that twisted the very air you breathed. You could almost taste the dread, a bitter copper that coated your tongue. And the locals? They wouldn't dare go near it. Not after what happened to young Tommy. He swore he saw something in the attic, something that wasn't human. His eyes told a tale of terror, a warning that was clear as day. But nobody heeded it. They just kept their distance, believing the nightmares were best left unspoken. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the night progressed, whispers turned into a hushed panic. A girl named Sarah felt the air grow thick. She could hardly breathe, a tightness crushing her chest. "Did you hear that?" she uttered, eyes wide with dread. Somewhere inside the house, something was laughing. The sound echoed like shards of glass, sharp and painful. Was it real, or a trick of their fears? The friends gathered closer, their breaths mingling together, the warmth of their bodies a weak comfort against the creeping cold. A sudden crash came from above the attic. They froze. Tommy's warnings rang in their ears. Taking slow breaths, they glanced at one another, but no one wanted to be the first to move. Shadows flitted across the walls, elongating their fears with each heartbeat. Suddenly, Sarah felt an icy finger trace along her arm, and she screamed, pierced through the silence like a gunshot. Panic set in, but when she turned, nothing was there, or was it? What were the secrets buried beneath the dust of that mansion? Why did the clock strike midnight in a world where light and dark blurred? And somewhere deep in that haunted labyrinth, did someone wait for them to uncover the truth? As Sarah's scream faded, silence cloaked the room, thick and suffocating. But that eerie stillness shattered when another crash echoed from the attic, a crash that sounded too heavy, too deliberate. Cold sweat clung to the backs of their necks as the friends instinctively huddled closer, hands trembling, breaths shallow. "Maybe we should go. We can't just stand here," Kevin stammered, his voice quaking like the floor beneath them. His wide eyes darted around, searching for a way out. But deep down, they all felt an unspoken bond, a strange allure pulling them toward the danger lurking above. Who would go first? A heavy silence filled the air, moments ticking away like a countdown to some unseen doom. Then, without warning, Tommy took a step forward. "I'll check it out," he said, bravely attempting to mask his fear. The others gasped, but his shaky smile hinted at a secret desire for heroism that drew them all in. "Wait, what?" Sarah gasped. "That's a terrible idea." But Tommy was already climbing the staircase, wooden steps creaking ominously with every footfall. The others exchanged worried glances. Was he really going to go alone? The thought gnawed at their guts, the tightness in their chests growing heavier. "Tommy," someone called, but he didn't turn back. Just a ghostly shadow disappearing into the darkness. Moments crawled by, each tick of the clock louder, amplifying their dread. They strained to hear anything from above, but it was as if the house held its breath. Then, a low groan echoed from the attic, followed by laughter, except this laughter wasn't Tommy's. A wave of horror crashed over Sarah as she felt something cold and clammy brush against her arm again. She spun around, pushing past her friends, searching for the source of that icy touch. "We need to get out of here," she shouted, panic clawing at her throat. "Not without Tommy," Kevin insisted, but his voice quivered, revealing his own fear. "Then we find him. Now." Sarah's heart raced. She didn't want to admit how terrified she was, but the dread pulsed through her like a heartbeat. Summoning their courage, they climbed the stairs, the air thickening with every step. Each door they passed felt like a barrier between them and the truth, whispers curling and sneering as they ventured deeper into the shadows. Finally, they reached the attic door, splintered and ominously ajar, a gaping mouth, inviting them in. "On three," whispered Sarah, clutching the doorknob. "1, 2, 3. They pushed open the door, and it creaked in protest. What lay before them was a scene straight from a nightmare. Tommy was standing there, lost in a trance, staring at a mirror that hadn't been there before. "Tommy!" they shouted in unison, but he didn't move. The air crackled with a strange energy, and low whispers flooded their ears, wrapping around them like a thick fog. "Look," he finally said. His voice sounded distant, almost like a different person. They hesitated, then moved closer, peering into the mirror. What they saw was something that twisted their stomachs, a parade of faces twisted in anguish, reflections of the mansion's cursed past. Before they could react, a cold wind whipped through the attic, jars rattling, dust dancing in the air. "Get back!" screamed Sarah, but it was too late. The mirror flared with otherworldly light, and everything went black. What had they unleashed? Were they meant to be part of this terrifying story? And when the darkness faded, would their minds still recognize one another or become another haunting in the attic? The darkness pressed in on them, suffocating and heavy. It took root in Sarah's chest, squeezing until she could barely breathe. Her heart raced, echoing in the silence, every beat screaming for the light. Then it came. A flicker, a flash of blinding white. They squinted as the world reassembled around them. They were still in the attic, yet something felt different, dreadful. The mirror had changed. Instead of their own reflections, it showed images swirling like a dark storm, shadows moving in chaotic patterns. "Where are we?" Kevin whispered, his voice trembling. "Tommy?" Sarah called, desperate to find him, but only the echo of her own voice replied. Panic surged through her. What did we just do? Suddenly, a form stepped out from behind the disturbed shadows in the mirror. It was Tommy, but his eyes were vacant, as if his very soul had been stripped away. "You shouldn't have come here," he murmured, the words barely a whisper yet filled with despair. "Tommy, come back," Kevin shouted, reaching out toward him. The electricity in the air crackled with tension, sending jolts through their bodies. Tommy didn't respond, didn't even bat an eyelash. Instead, his lips curled into an unsettling smile that sent waves of terror crashing over Sarah. It was the face of someone who had seen too much, who had tasted forbidden things. "Tommy," she screamed again. "Fight it. You're not alone." But instead of breaking his trance, her words seemed only to deepen it. From the mirror, the shadows beckoned, a quiet allure that was both seductive and sinister. The reflection twisted into faces themselves, longing and pleading. "Help us," one voice cried from the depths, as if the glass had been transformed into a portal to another dimension, one where lost souls cried for release. "What the hell is happening?" Kevin shouted, grappling with reality. Are they trapped? Like Tommy? Sarah felt the chill settle in her bones. She took a step forward, drawn to the mirror, unable to resist its pull. "No, Sarah. Don't." Kevin pleaded as he reached for her, but it was too late. The mirror shimmered like water as she touched it, and icy fingers wrapped around her wrist, weaving into her veins. "Let go," he cried, but she felt weightless, her surroundings fading. The world beyond the mirror slipped away as whispers filled her mind, filling her with images of despair and suffering. "Help us!" The voices grew louder, a cacophony that drowned out her reason. Join us in that moment. A split-second decision lurked beneath the surface. Should she stay and risk joining the shadows, or break free and fight for her friends? Before she could decide, the cold grip tightened, yanking her deeper into the mirror. Sarah felt herself pulled along like a leaf in a storm, while Kevin, desperate and frantic, lunged forward just as the boundary between the realms began to blur. "Sarah!" he shouted, reaching out, and the look on his face shattered her heart. In that moment of desperation, she clung to the thread of friendship, hoping it was strong enough to reverse the spell trapping them. The echo of their shared laughter and memories wrapped around her like a protective cloak. But then there was another chilling sound, a deep, guttural growl emerging from the depths of the mirror. "Embrace your fate," it hissed. The mirror's light flared, blinding her as reality fractured. And in a heartbeat, everything became a blur of sound and sensation, fear mingling with hope, until a split emerged, one that could either lead them to freedom or eternal darkness. What awaited them on the other side? Did they have the strength to break the grip of the cursed reflection? Or would they find themselves lost forever, devoured by the darkness they had unwittingly unleashed? The freezing grip tightened around Sarah as she felt the air sucked from her lungs. Panic clawed at her throat, and just as she felt herself slipping entirely, a wrenching force pulled her violently back. For a moment, she saw Kevin's face flash before her, filled with terror and determination. Then, she was enveloped in white light. With a gasp, Sarah landed hard on a cold, concrete floor. She instinctively rolled to her side, her pulse racing. Blinking away the glare, she tried to gather her surroundings. It was dark, but faint outlines were beginning to take shape. Shadows danced along the walls, whispering secrets and mocking her fear. "Sarah!" Kevin's voice broke through the chaos, a lifeline in the swirling confusion. "Kevin, where are you?" she shouted, her voice shaking. She pushed herself up, feeling the chill of the floor seep through her clothes. Her eyes widened when she saw him, stumbling from the depths of an unlit corner. "Over here," he exclaimed as he stumbled into the dimness, the haunted expression on his face only heightening her dread. Did we make it? Are we gone from the mirror?" Before Kevin could respond, a low growl echoed across the room. Dread pooled in Sarah's stomach. No, they hadn't escaped. The shadows coiled around them, curling like smoke, sharpening into menacing shapes. Through the obscurity, she could see the twisted faces, not just reflections anymore, but tangible forms made of pure shadow. They floated closer, their mouths moving in agony, syllables distorted into a sickly chorus. "Join us. Be one of us. Don't listen," Kevin yelled, grabbing her hand. "We need to move." But as they turned, another silhouette emerged ahead of them, blocking their path. It was Tommy, or something that looked like him. His outline flickered, warping between reality and the nightmare they had just escaped. "Sarah." "Kevin, why did you come?" he croaked, his voice hollow, echoing through the room like a long-forgotten whisper of anguish. "Tommy," Sarah cried, tears forming in the corners of her eyes. "Fight it. We need you. We can help you." But Tommy's gaze held her captive, an infinite abyss of despair. "You should have left me, now you're part of it." With a sudden snap, the shadows surged forward. Sarah and Kevin barely had time to react before darkness swallowed the light. Stumbling backward, Sarah caught a glimpse of their reflections in the cracked walls. It wasn't just them. The ghostly faces of the trapped souls danced around them, each face distorted in torment. "Run!" Kevin shouted, pulling her away just as the shadows surged forward, angry and eager, seeking to claim them. Pinned against the wall, familiar memories echoed through her mind: laughter at the park, late-night talks, the warmth of a simple hug. "We can't let their pain trap us. Fight it," she urged Kevin, desperately pulling him toward an exit that shimmered at the far end of the room. But the shadows advanced again, howling like a fierce wind, their cries morphing into laughter, mocking. No escape. No hope. You belong to us now. With adrenaline surging, they ducked and weaved, feeling the icy fingers graze their skin as they ran. Tommy's face flashed in her mind, the smile from the mirror, the despair in his eyes. This was no mere reflection. It was an invitation to share in the darkness. Sarah. Kevin's voice rang out, breaking her from the trance of despair. This way. As they reached what felt like a thin veil, the atmosphere throbbed, heavy and packed with despair. Would they breach it, or would they succumb like so many others? The shadows closed in, whispering promises of power and comfort. The final barrier shimmered before them, but could it truly lead them to safety? Now or never, Kevin shouted, and they lunged, hearts pounding, into the unknown. What awaited them on the other side? Would they truly escape the darkness, or would they find themselves forever entwined in a realm of despair? They hurtled through the veil, and the world spun around them, a cacophony of whispers spiraling into chaos. Then, everything stopped. Sarah found herself sprawled on grass, the chill of the earth contrasting sharply with the intense heat radiating from the other side. The air was thick, almost smothering. Distant howls echoed behind them, the shadows still clawing to drag them back into despair. Are we? Kevin gasped, surveying their surroundings. Are we safe? Sarah struggled to her feet, trembling. The night was dark, but the moon cast an eerie glow, illuminating a vast and twisted forest. Time seemed frozen, and a heavy silence blanketed the area. Quick! We need to find somewhere to hide, Kevin urged, pulling her toward the trees that loomed like ancient sentinels. They dashed into the bushes, instinctively ducking beneath the low branches. Sarah's breath came in hard gasps, each step a battle against the weight of the shadows still lurking in her mind. Did we really escape? She panted, looking up at Kevin, the worry etched across his face unnerving her. Before he could answer, a faint rustle came from the nearby brush, sending a jolt of alarm through her. They froze, hearts pounding in sync. Maybe it's just an animal, Kevin whispered, but there was no conviction in his voice. The noise intensified, a low, guttural growl echoing into the night. Whatever was out there was larger than any woodland creature. Go, now, Sarah screamed, pulling him farther into the depths of the forest. They pressed on, branches scraping their arms, but they didn't dare look back. Suddenly, a figure broke through the trees ahead, a tall, dark shape obscured by undergrowth. Sarah's heart sank as she recognized the warped features of Tommy emerging from the shadows, eyes ablaze with an unnatural glow. Why didn't you listen? He rasped, voice laced with pain, the very air around him heavy with contempt. Tommy, fight it, Kevin shouted, reaching out as though he could grasp the remnants of his friend. We're trying to save you. But the creature that had taken Tommy's form merely shook its head, fragments of darkness swirling around it like smoke. You're too late. They want you too. The shadows are never far. Before they could react, tendrils of darkness shot from Tommy's figure, curling and reaching toward them with unfolding fingers. Sarah felt her heart race as the icy feeling crept back, tugging at her senses. Go, Kevin shouted again, gripping Sarah's arm. We need to split up. They'll think they can trap us together. No, she cried, shaking her head frantically. I want to let you do that. But he was already pulling away, desperation flooding his gaze. Trust me. We'll find each other again. Just keep moving. With a final, pained look, he broke free, shooting down a different path. Sarah hesitated, torn between fear and the instinct to follow him. Now alone, she raced deeper into the forest. Trees closed in on her, looming high and impossibly dark. The shadows were relentless, whispering her name, weaving in and out of her thoughts. Sarah, join us, be one of us, no. She screamed, her voice cracking, barely more than a whisper against the encroaching darkness. Then, through the cacophony, she heard a sharp crack, a limb snapping, followed by a chilling laughter, echoing from behind. It wasn't just the shadows hunting her. There was something else lurking, something alive. She stumbled into a small clearing and stopped short. Her breath caught as she noticed shapes shifting in the moonlight. They weren't just shadows anymore, they had form, bodies fused with the darkness. Then one stepped forward, its eyes glinting with malice in the pale glow. "Welcome, Sarah," it hissed, extending a hand shrouded in shadow. "You've come to stay, Haven Tiu?" As the figure advanced, Sarah realized she had to choose. Would she fight to find Kevin, where safety might not exist? Or would she allow the shadows to claim her, to succumb to the darkness that called her name? A loud roar erupted behind her, a commotion breaking out as the forest itself seemed to awaken. And then she saw it, a flicker of movement to her left, Kevin struggling against a figure indistinguishable from Tommy's. Could she save them both? The choice loomed, intense and inevitable. But darkness was closer now, fingers slipping around her throat. What would she decide? Would she tear through the night? Or would she let despair pull her under? The shadows closed in, the air thick with dread and malice. Sarah's mind raced, her heart pounding a wild drum in her chest. She felt the pull of the darkness around her, the slick tendrils wrapping tighter, threatening to squeeze the very breath from her lungs. "Fight it! Fight!" she screamed, as desperation clawed at her voice. But the figure, now looming just inches away, smiled, a twisted grin stretching across its shadowy features. "You're too late for that," it whispered, the words slithering through the air like smoke. Behind her, Kevin's struggle was desperate but clear. He was fighting against Tommy once more, even though the boy who once was no longer lingered. The otherworldly being had taken Tommy's physical shape, but its essence was lost, replaced by something sinister. "Sarah." Kevin's voice broke through her panic. "Help!" In that moment the world narrowed to that cry. It struck her like a lightning bolt. She tore herself away from the shadow's alluring grip, her feet moving instinctively towards her friend. She forced her legs into motion, racing back towards the chaos. "Hold on, Kevin," she yelled, her hands slicing through the air to push the darkness away. The shadows writhed, angrily reeling toward her like snakes, hissing in protest. She could feel their chill seeping into her bones, whispering promises of comfort and escape. But she wouldn't listen. Focused on Kevin, she pushed deeper into the fray, her body colliding with the tangle of shadow and despair. She reached for him, their eyes locking in a desperate crescendo of urgency and fear. "Sarah, don't." Tommy's distorted voice echoed around them. "Stay with us. We're your only safety." "No," she shouted, defiance spilling from her lips. "You're not him." Kevin wrestled, wild-eyed and fearless. "You're stronger than this." The darkness hissed around them, tightening its grip, but Sarah could feel the life pulsing between them, an unshakable thread. She reached into the fray, grasping his wrist firmly. The moment she made contact, a jolt passed between them. It was magnetic, but the shadows retaliated violently. A convulsion of darkness surged from Tommy, a wave so strong it sent both Sarah and Kevin crashing to the ground. Sarah landed hard, breath knocked from her lungs. "Kevin," she gasped, struggling to rise, but shadows swarmed, their tendrils piercing her skin like frozen needles, seeking to siphon her life force. All of it felt wrong, terrifying. With a Herculean effort, Kevin shook off the claws of despair that grasped at his soul. He lunged for Sarah's arm, yanking her back to her feet. "We have to break free. Just hold on to me." And there they were again, side by side, two friends against a tide of ancient darkness. "Can you push against it? Fight it back like before?" Kevin urged, his eyes gleaming with an unyielding strength. "Yes," they yelled in unison, channeling their fear into willpower, pushing against the encroaching shadows. It felt impossibly heavy. Together, they summoned a light from within, an essence that flickered like a candle in a storm. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, the darkness retreating as if stung. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. The figures from the depths surged forward again, a chorus of sinister whispers trying to drown them out. "You belong here, Sarah. This is your fate." "Never," she screamed back, clutching Kevin's hand tighter, their bond melting the dark away inch by inch. They began to run, weaving through the tangle of trees, their footsteps echoing into the night, a melody of resistance. Yet even as they escaped, a chilling realization settled in their bones. More shadows lurked beyond the trees, back into the depths of the nightmare they thought they'd escaped. Sarah felt the weight of their endless pursuit wrapping around her like old, familiar chains. But then she spotted a flicker ahead, a glimmer of light through the trees. Hope surged within her, but it was followed quickly by doubt. What if it led to another trap? As they pressed on, Kevin glanced back, his expression twisting in anguish. "Sarah, behind us, we're not alone," he warned, voice trembling. The chilling laughter of the shadows echoed louder now, rising in a horrific symphony. "Run," she urged, desperation morphing into frantic determination. They sprinted toward the beckoning light, knowing time was slipping away. Should they trust it? Or was it yet another lure into the darkness? As the laughter crescendoed behind them, Sarah felt a shudder of fear quake through her gut. The choices loomed like phantoms in the mist. Would this light lead to salvation, or would it illuminate a deeper abyss? The chase was far from over. The light grew brighter, a pulsing beacon that seemed to call out to them, urging them forward. Sarah pushed her legs harder, fueled by adrenaline and an essence of hope that felt almost surreal. "Come on," Kevin shouted, his voice a lifeline in the chaos. The distance between them and the shadows shrank with each heartbeat, the chilling laughter ringing in their ears like sirens. Just as they reached the edge of the clearing, the light flickered, a warning pulse that felt like a heartbeat of its own. The shadows surged again, black tendrils stretching toward them with sinister intent, hungry for their very souls. "Don't stop," Sarah yelled, but doubt gnawed at her thoughts. As they reached the beacon, she stumbled for a moment, heart racing, lips dry. What awaited them? They burst into the clearing, the sudden brightness bathing them in warmth. But instead of safety, they found ruins, a dilapidated structure, its walls crumbling and covered in vines. It felt ancient, as if it had watched centuries slip by in silence. The air was thick, almost electric, pulsing with energy that made the hairs on Sarah's arms stand on end. "Is this it?" Kevin panted, glancing around, eyes wide with confusion. "Is this the escape?" Before Sarah could respond, the shadows melted into the trees, swirling around their feet, the laughter morphing into whispers and hisses that seemed to seep from the very walls of the ruins. "Welcome, welcome," they echoed, gliding like a soft wind through the crumbling stones. "No," Sarah whispered, the dread clawing at her throat. "This can't be the end. Maybe we can find something inside," Kevin urged, desperation thick in his voice. The flickering light seemed a beacon, but as they moved closer, the whispering shadows behind them followed relentlessly, gnashing their unseen teeth. With a burst of resolve, they approached ancient doors that hung askew, creaking eerily as they got closer. Shadows writhed around the threshold, like a living entity defending its lair. Sarah hesitated, every instinct screaming to turn back. "Do you see that?" Kevin pointed, voice trembling. A shadow at the door jutted out, a figure emerging from the dark. It wore Tommy's face, but something was profoundly twisted in its features, eyes hollow and vacant, smile crooked and menacing. "Why did you leave?" The voice was a haunting echo, filled with resentment. "You were meant to join us." "No," Kevin shouted, stepping forward. "That's not you, Tommy." But as the words left his mouth, another figure joined the first, another lost soul dressed in the form of someone they knew. The other shadows swelled, revealing more faces, each one a twisted reflection of friends long gone. "Join us, Sarah. Join us, Kevin," they murmured, voices melding into a dreadful harmony. What do you want?" Sarah's voice quaked, now trembling with a deep-rooted terror. She could feel the darkness press in, the hot breath of despair dancing on the nape of her neck. "Your freedom," the hollow voice of the Tommy-shaped figure dripped with sickly menace, "comes with a price. Your souls will provide sustenance, the power we need to escape this realm. Run," Kevin urged, grabbing Sarah's hand once again. But before they could move, the shadows erupted, encircling them, gripping tight as they swept the last flickers of light away. Your only way out is to give in. Join us. The figures combined, their voices a cacophony of despair. The shadows dragged them back, a tide of darkness threatening to pull them under completely. And that heart-stopping moment, Sarah's mind raced. Was this a trap? Or was there a chance to turn the tide against the darkness? To confront it and reclaim their friend? Kevin, hold on. She shouted as a memory sparked deep within the light they had summoned before. Could they call that strength back forth once more? But the shadows tightened their grasp, whispering promises laced with terror. Will you accept our gift? Or will you be consumed? They were running out of time. Would they find the strength within to fight back? Or would they succumb to the chilling darkness? The answer lay hidden in the shadows, just out of reach. The shadows pulsed, a living darkness that wrapped around Sarah and Kevin like a vice. Their hearts raced, minds swirling with terror. Everything felt uncertain. Faces they once loved, now twisted and cruel, beckoned from the depths of the shadows. Join us, they crooned, the voices now echoing too familiar, each word a dagger in their resolve. Don't listen to them, Kevin shouted, squeezing Sarah's hand. They're not real. It's the darkness trying to break us. But with every daring breath, the weight of despair crashed down harder. The figures morphed and shifted, swelling like a tide eager to drown them in sorrow. It's only a matter of time, the Tommy Spectre hissed, shattering the fragile barrier of their courage. You can't fight us. You're already part of this world. No, Sarah screamed, trying to shove the phantoms away, desperate to hold onto the fragments of hope piercing through her fear. We can't give in. We have to fight. With the last ounce of will, she closed her eyes and concentrated. Remember the light. She remembered the warmth that had poured over her before, a soft glow that felt safe and complete. She could summon it again. She had to. Focus, Kevin shouted, his voice rising above the cacophony of mockery. We need to find it together. The shadows tightened, squeezing the hope from Sarah's chest as panic threatened to swallow her whole. She envisioned that radiant light, brighter than the sun, clearer than the darkest night. It flickered at the edge of her consciousness, like a flame dancing against the wind. Suddenly, the warmth surged back, strong and defiant. Now, Sarah shouted, her eyes flying open. She could feel the energy vibrating around them. We have to keep it alive. She drew it forth, a shimmering glow pushing against the suffocating darkness. Kevin joined her, his face alight with determination. Together, they envisioned a beacon so fierce that the shadows would be forced to retreat. The light pulsed with their united strength, illuminating the horrible figures around them. The echoes turned shrill, voices faltering. No, you will regret this, hollered the distorted Tommy face, as the brightness cut into the shadows, burning their twisted forms. Now, Kevin, push. Sarah's voice rang with urgency. They focused, pouring every ounce of their being into the light. The shadows shrieked in agony, receding but not disappearing. We are eternal. You can't escape. They screamed, but their voices grew faint as if the light was drowning them out. With each beat of their hearts, the glow expanded, illuminating the ruins in a dazzling spectacle, overpowering the echoes of lost souls. But just as victory seemed within reach, the structure trembled. Dust and debris cascaded from overhead, and cracks split the walls. What's happening? Kevin gasped, looking around wildly as the ground beneath their feet began to rumble with a deep growl. I don't know, Sarah shouted. We might have woken it. Suddenly, the remnants of the figures swirled frantically, merging into a dark storm. It engulfed them, violent and desperate. The light flickered as if pleading, but they held onto it for dear life. Sarah, hold on. We can't let it go. Kevin yelled, but the shadows clawed at them, trying to tear the light from their grasp. A cracking sound thundered through the air, and the ancient structure began to collapse. We need to get out now, Sarah urged, her skin crawling with fear. They turned to run, the ground shaking violently beneath them as they fled back into the murky night. The shadows screamed, a haunting promise lingering in the air. You can't escape your fate. We will find you again. The wall of light thinned behind them, forcing them forward into the unknown. But as they reached the edge of the clearing, breathless and trembling, another sound pierced the night. In the distance, an ominous whisper echoed, "You escaped, but can you ever truly be free?" Was this a victory or merely a reprieve? The darkness loomed once more, just out of sight. They raced through the woods, heartbeats thundering like war drums, each footfall a reminder of the impending dread. The icy grip of fear clung to them, tightening with every snap of a twig and the rustle of leaves. Night had swallowed the world, leaving only the silvery moonlight to guide their escape. "Where do we go?" Kevin panted, glancing back, half expecting to see the dark storm chasing them, hungry to reclaim its prey. "Anywhere but here," Sarah gasped, her breath visible in the chilling air. "We can't stop until we're far enough away. They can't follow us into the light." But as they pushed forward, the woods twisted and turned, each tree looking like a specter in the night, a reminder of the shadows they had just escaped. The forest was alive, the dark branches looming down like hands trying to snatch them back. A sudden silence fell. The whispering wind stilled, waiting. "What's happening?" Kevin whispered, eyes wide, scanning the darkness. "Shoo," Sarah urged. "Listen, do you hear that?" From the depths of the blackness, a gentle sound began to rise, the sound of laughter. Light and airy at first, it grew more sinister by the moment, echoing through the trees, wrapping around them like a cold embrace. Is that Tommy?" Kevin stammered, his voice barely a whisper. "Can't be. We destroyed him," Sarah insisted, the memory of the specter still fresh in her mind. "It's just the darkness trying to mess with us." "Then why does it feel so real?" Kevin's hands trembled as he gripped Sarah tighter. As they stumbled deeper into the woods, Sarah felt a chill seep into her bones. The laughter morphed into a chorus of mocking voices. "You can't run from the truth," they sang, taunting them, twisting their memories. "You can't escape yourselves." Kevin swung around, desperation seeping into his tone. "We need to find shelter, somewhere safe." Then it hit her like a lightning bolt, the old cabin. Years ago, they had discovered it when exploring the woods, a place filled with discarded memories and forgotten tales. It was their shelter from storms and frightful creatures. But now, even the mention sent dread coursing through her veins. "Follow me," Sarah commanded, grabbing Kevin's wrist and racing towards what she hoped was salvation. But with every step, doubt clawed at her mind. What if the darkness had invaded that space too? What if it waited patiently, ready to consume them whole? Just as they reached the clearing leading to the cabin, they stopped dead in their tracks. The door stood ajar, swinging softly back and forth like a pendulum. Shadows flickered inside, casting eerie shapes on the walls. A mix of relief and terror washed over her as Sarah exchanged glances with Kevin, who swallowed hard, sweat beading on his forehead. "Do we go in? If we don't, we can't stay out here. The shadows will find us," she said, her voice trembling. Together, they stepped toward the cabin, nervously pushing open the door. This familiar refuge now felt like a trap, a darkened mouth waiting to swallow them whole. As they crossed the threshold, the atmosphere thickened, the air heavy with weighty secrets. The floor creaked beneath their feet, every sound amplified in the tense silence. "Sarah, something's not right," Kevin murmured, his eyes darting around. The laughter erupted again, louder and deeper this time, bouncing off the peeling walls of the cabin. They spun around, searching for the source, frantically clinging to the fading glow of their earlier triumph. The laughter grew into a mournful wail, a cacophony of twisted voices rising in protest. "Get out! Get out!" Sarah screamed, but before they could move, the shadows poured in from every corner, swirling and consuming the room. They were trapped. "Kevin, we need to fight. Together," she shouted, desperation flooding her voice. But just when it seemed the darkness had them, a blinding light erupted from their clasped hands, electrifying the room. The figures screamed in rage, thrashing against the golden brilliance. "Don't let go!" Kevin yelled, the pressure mounting as the shadows clawed at their souls. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the light flickered ominously, threatening to extinguish completely. Sarah, the slipping away. In that split second of doubt, reality twisted again. All at once, an image flashed before Sarah. Her past, raw and visceral memories she had locked away, traumas masked by a fragile peace. Sarah? Kevin's voice cracked. Would their darkest fears consume them now? Would they have the strength to push back once more, facing everything they thought they had conquered, with trembling determination? Sarah took a deep breath, her light flaring high. Don't just stand there. We have to light the way. But what if the real challenge was not the shadows outside, but the demons they carried inside? How could they fight when the truth of their deepest fears lay in wait? They stepped deeper into the unknown, ready to face their past, unsure of what awaited them in the darkness. As the very walls of the cabin quaked, collapsing under the weight of memories and lies, they could only wonder when faced with the truth of who they really were. Could they emerge from the shadows this time? The walls shook violently, dust cascading like snowflakes as Sarah and Kevin braced against the onslaught of memories and shadows. Terrified faces flashed before them, echoes of their past mingled with the darkness. Familiar laughter twisted into haunting howls. You think you can escape? A voice taunted from within the swirl, deep and mocking. Stay strong, Kevin yelled, pulling Sarah closer, their fingers gripping with fierce determination. They had fought through the depths of fear before. They could do it again. With every ounce of strength, they focused on that radiant light. They had summoned the beacon that led them so far. The shadows writhed, screaming as the light began to push them back. You're feeding us with your fear. You can't win. The mocking voice sneered. But they were tired of fear. They wanted freedom. Do you want to be chained forever? The shadows echoed, their coiling tendrils reaching eagerly, desperate for a taste of despair. Hear me. We refuse to be part of your darkness. Sarah cried, grounding herself as she visualized their bond friendship that had been forged in laughter and courage. She summoned memories of those carefree days, the whispers of joy overtaking the dread and darkness. Those fleeting moments, anchoring her to the light. With newfound vigor, she shouted, "We are not afraid." Then, hand in hand, they took a step forward, channeling every ounce of love and resilience into the light. It pulsed and surged, a potent glow that started erasing the shadows instead of merely holding them at bay. The tortured voices clamored, "No, you can't." With a shuddering breath, Kevin added, "You're not real. You have no power here." And with those words, the light grew stronger, embodying their unwavering belief in each other and their resolve to banish the shadows. The cabin shook like it was about to implode. The air crackled with electricity, a storm of emotions swirling as they fought together against an ancient evil. "Fight!" Sarah gasped, determination seizing her heart. In response, the cabin gave one final groan, walls buckling under the pressure of the battle. Shadows shrieked as the light expelled them, turning the air thick with warmth and hope. Sarah felt the energy spreading from within her, igniting every dark corner, drowning the despair and bringing silence. The shadows dissolved into wisps, fading into the floorboards, taking their coldness with them. The remaining whispers morphed into remnants, echoes fleeing into the depths of the forest, their laughter quelled. The sunlight broke through, flooding the cabin with warmth. With one last push, the light consumed the darkness completely. The cabin stood firm, no longer a prison but a refuge, a space that celebrated their victory. Breathing heavily, Sarah and Kevin stood there, trembling from the confrontation yet empowered by their reclamation of self. "Did we do it?" Kevin whispered, wide-eyed, searching for answers. Maybe we did," Sarah replied, a soft smile forming, relief washing over her like a warm breeze. But then the silence broke with familiar laughter, a sound they thought they had banished, now hovering in the air, wrapping around them with a deceptive sweetness. "Not so fast." The voice slithered through the remnants of the cabin, enticing yet encroaching. "You think you're free? You're part of our story now." Fear flickered in their chests, but Sarah held on to Kevin, her grip a lifeline. "No, we are more than this darkness," she proclaimed, her voice steady. "We own our story, and it's ours to weave." Outside, the sun continued to rise, breaking through the trees as the colors burst forth gold and orange. A glorious dawn chasing away the remnants of night. "Come on," Kevin urged, his spirit ignited. They breached the threshold into the light, leaving the burdens behind them. There, in the golden expanse, a new adventure awaited. They found freedom in the dawn, the shadows receding into the past. They exchanged one last glance, a silent promise echoing between them. They would face life together, carrying their wounds but choosing to embrace the light ahead. With hearts full of hope and spirits unchained, they stepped forward into the unknown, ready for whatever lay ahead. And somewhere in the distance, a whisper lingered, softer now. Until next time, the story wasn't over, but they had found their strength. Now, it's time for you to become part of this journey. Subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes all the difference. Flood the comments section with your wild reactions and theories about the ending. Let us hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel. Make your voice heard.